Book talk.
All right, so I'm here with Spencer Doepel, who works, or are you the founder of Ecoflys?
Yep, I'm the owner and founder of Ecoflys.
Awesome. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you actually do there?
Yeah, I'd love to. So here at Ecoflies, I work with black soldier fly larvae, which is a really cool concept and just a beautiful insect in its own right, in both forms, I think. So pretty much what we do here is we take food waste, mainly from breweries right now that brew like beer and stuff. And this food waste would go to like a landfill. So we take it and we breed the black soldier fly larva, or we buy them actually from another breeder, and then we take them and they can convert waste very rapidly. So for about every 1 pound of black soldier fly larva we produce, we can divert about 20 pounds away from organic waste away from a landfill. So
Oh,
yeah,
awesome.
and then we take these larvae and we sell them. Us specifically, we sell them right now mainly to the reptile market. So for like bearded dragons and leopard geckos, I got a shirt today on bearded dragon.
Oh, very nice.
So yeah, but they're also used for like chickens. They can get you can dry them out and use them for chickens, and they're also going to be eventually used as a feed ingredient for fish farms.
Okay.
And yeah, they also produce a fertilizer too, because everything poops. So and that's also cool. We can talk about that in its own right. I could just talk about, but yeah. So that's pretty much the gist of what we do here.
Okay. So the food waste that comes in, do you have to process that at all, or do you just give it straight to the larva?
So since we use distilled brewer's grains, we don't have to process it all. It's nice and wet. They like wetter foods. So like if we were to get per se like bread waste, we would have to like hydrate that to the proper level so they can eat it. How they eat is a very like unique process, and they require like higher moisture temperatures. So there's like plans in the future when I'm scaling up to do different types of waste and get it to a certain moisture level to what's the word finalize the grow, make it really good. So
Okay. And so, what is so interesting about how they eat?
yeah, so from what I've heard, is like they spit on their food almost, and they have like enzymes in their stomach, and that kind of like works alongside them. The microbiology works alongside the black soldier fly larva as they eat, and the enzymes in their stomach can just digest like so many different types. So I think that's why it's interesting why they eat. They also lose their mouths at a certain point, and they almost have like a little like hand finger kind of thing, and they're able to use that to crawl out to like a dry spot. So they're very interesting creatures just in their life cycle, and then they look for a dry spot and pupate and turn to flies, and the flies are cool on their own. They only live for a few days and their only goal is to reproduce, but they're very beautiful, like black with like a purple and blue kind of tint to them. So I find myself sometimes in awe of that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So, how did you? So, kind of two questions together. How did you get into this, and why black soldier flies versus like roaches or mealworms, crickets, etc.?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, the first way I got into reptiles in 2018, I want to say. Yeah, and I got a leopard gecko. And since then, my collection has grown, so I have a good amount of animals now. But I really just thought that the pet store was just quite a bit of money to feed them. I think it's like 10 cents a cricket. So I was like, I mean, it wasn't that much money, but I was a college student. I was
Yeah.
going through college. I was living on my own, so I was like, man, this is killing me. So I was like, I want to breed insects on my own. So I tried crickets. I wasn't able to get them. I don't know why. I just was never able to do it. And then I did superworms and mealworms, and I had success with those. But I just wasn't impressed and happy with like how fast they grew. Like they took like a few months, and I'm sure I could have sped that up knowing what I know now with like temperature. and whatnot. But I just really wasn't happy with that, and I was about to give up on insect farming completely. And then I found this video about black soldier fly larvae on YouTube, and I just thought it was really cool because they reproduce way more rapidly than the other insects, for one, and they also, what else? Sorry, I had something in my mind, but I just totally forgot it. Um, oh, how quickly their life cycle is. Their life cycle really at the max is only like 30 to 45 days. So I mean, it's really nice. Like personally here at Ecoflys, like when we buy our larvae, we'll buy them in like 5-day old, and then it'll just take about a week, and we can bioprocess all that waste, and then they get sold. So like that's a really good business model, just in terms of business. So that was what attracted to me to them. I'm personally, my background is in marketing and sales. I went to University of Akron. I don't have any entomology, background or anything. I was just a kid who just decided to play with worms. So that's just kind of where I'm at right now. So yeah.
Okay. And do you do this full time?
I do. So I just graduated from college in December, this past December.
Okay.
So I'm trying to give it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. It was a long journey for sure. I am trying to give myself like 9 months, and then see what happens. I'm thinking about maybe going and working. I'm in Ohio, so there's a college that and called Hawken College, and they have a fishery and hatchery. So I'm thinking about going down there and working with them, possibly doing some
Okay.
research down there. But I'm not really sure what's going to happen right now. I'm hoping that I can grow the business though, and I can make it full time. Right now, I'm in a startup incubator, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm kind of still in school, but trying to run the business. But I think I've found that it needs some more scaling up. So
Okay.
not to be on the business side so much, but
Okay. So, how much space do you need for raising
yeah.
the flies?
Yeah, so right now I grow about 1.3 million in about a 10-foot by 5-foot space, right? And I grow about 10,000 to 20,000 in a 2-foot by 1-foot bin. That's about 6 inches to 8 inches high, and you only fill that up about halfway. So they're and that can fill about 20 pounds, so about 10,000 per 20 pounds. So I mean, you can
Okay.
grow a fairly amount in the bioconversion process, but then you need a little extra space for like the flies, the flies to fly around, and for your pupa colony, or for your pupas and your 5-day olds. But we don't have all of that space. We only have a 300 square foot space right now, which we're kind of almost utilizing. But you can grow a fair amount. Like, just if you were just wanting, had a bearded dragon and you wanted to buy like really small ones and grow them up for yourself, like, it would be very affordable. So,
Okay. Yeah, sounds like
but
you could
most
just grab
people don't want to.
like a
Most people
plastic
don't want to do
box.
the work. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Plastic box. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
It is a little stinky though, I will say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
that's why I think people like don't grow these as often, is because they do tend to have an ammonia smell, and that's depending on what you feed them. But they can be a little stinky, since like you need to have the wetter feed, and then it can go like anaerobic, and that can make it even more stinky. So
okay. Is it the kind of stink that kind of grows on you, or is it just always like a bad stink?
hmm. I that's a good question. The really bad ammonia smell, like, no, that it's pretty bad. It like gets in your nose and you're like, whoo, like kind of burns your eyes almost. But luckily they don't always do that. Sometimes when they're in the dryer, like you have the dryer substrate, it'll just kind of smell like dried grains, and then the wet grains kind of just smell like, the wet grains kind of have grown on me, but the ammonia smell, no, because the wet grains kind of smell like, I don't know, like almost like a bread, like beer kind of smell, and it's like
Okay.
not horrible, But the ammonia smell, whoo, no, absolutely not. Yeah, and there's ways to mitigate this smell too, but
Okay. So there's kind of a public perception of bugs, pretty negative public perception. Like anyone who likes bugs is usually seen as pretty weird. So what kind of reactions do you get when you tell people what you do? And maybe as a follow up, depending on what you say, like how do you like cope with that?
Yeah. I think that's a really good question. So I want to start out with saying, like, so I do a lot of reptile shows. So I'll display my black soldier fly larva in like a little bowl. And it's very interesting to see people's reaction when they walk by and they're like, what are those? And like kids especially, it's like some kids will like want to touch them and stuff and like pick them up, and I'll let them, I'll say like, oh, it's doing the worm, and they'll think it's funny, but some parents won't let the kids touch it, and other kids will just be like, ew, and like run away. And so like I've thought that was very interesting, and I at the very beginning I feel like I was like, what am I kind of doing? I'm playing with bugs, and I could be like, in a marketing agency because that's what I do, or like a salesperson or something like that. And I'm trying to run my own business and do this. But I think that at the end of the day, like what drives me is like the my species of bug specifically has like such a impact, on the world in my eyes, I guess. So that like really drives me, and I'm like, I'm gonna make an impact if this can be a thing. We can remove so many tons of waste from the environment, and that makes me very happy that I'm removing my environmental footprint. And anybody else too, like, I have friends that have like isopods, and I think isopods are awesome. If you're
Yeah.
not familiar with isopods, you should do an interview with someone isopods. Like, I know people at the reptile shows that just like geek out about bugs and like arachnids and stuff like that, and I think it's cool. Like, I saw a spider that, I'm not that far into like all the stuff, but I think it's cool. Like, I think it's cool, and everybody has their own thing. And I think that if people don't like it, then they don't know what they're missing out with. They're no don't know what they're missing out on, and they're not very open minded. Yeah, I guess. And I guess like if you are struggling with it and like need to cope with it, I would just say, everyone's unique, and do what makes you happy.
Awesome. Great advice. Yeah, thanks for
Yeah.
sharing all that.
I'm glad because I kind of made it up on the fly. So.
There you go. All right. This interview is kind of made up on the fly, so kind of fits.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's so much more to be done in the entomology world, honestly. Like, there's just so much more to be done. And I would like, even if you're not a researcher, I guess, like, there's still things to be like learned and gained. Like, if you're like in the hobbyist of like isopods, I mean, there's so many isopod morphs, like different color variations, like rubber duckies and all that. And like, that's crazy. Like, you could discover like like, not a gene, I don't know that much, but like you discover like a color morph of like isopods, like that's like pretty cool. Like your name will go down to like the history books. Like, how many other people can say that? So like, I don't know, I just think that there's so much more to be done, and that should motivate you in its own right.
Yeah. Yeah, the hobbyist field is there's a pretty big insect, arachnids, isopod hobbyist field out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're
I've
doing
seen some praying mantises and stuff like that too, out there, and I think that's interesting for sure.
oh yeah, and everybody I've I didn't study entomology. That's not what my degree is in, but I've done research with it. And I would end up on the forums sometimes looking for stuff because all the hobbyists were so enthusiastic. They were compiling their own research. So it's a really
Yes,
underutilized
absolutely.
resource.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a really good point. And to even like pair that with like a community I'm really passionate about is I have this a reptile called a Bronia graminia. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not.
Mm-mm.
Mexican alligator lizard,
Okay.
but they're endangered. And they get smuggled into the U.S. a lot. So a lot of people are like trying, and the Mexican government really like doesn't do a lot, and there's a lot of deforestation. So a lot of people are trying to like breed them in captivity, and like there's groups, and like we talk about that stuff, and like so I think like there's a very like I feel that synergy with that energy with your industry, so like there's work to be done. There's work to be done.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um,
Especially in like times like these too. We
yeah,
gotta have innovation and like change, especially in the world that we're living in.
yeah, yeah, and kind of going along with that, I know not in the U.S. it's more normal to consume insects. In the U.S. it's starting to kind of pick up. Are black soldier flies? I know you mentioned for like fish food for lizards and stuff. What about people? Is that something people can eat? Is it moving towards that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there is a company called Cricket Flour. I don't know if you're familiar with them or no.
I have heard of them.
Is maybe it's give me 1 second. I have their bag back here. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it is Cricket Flour. Oh, ignore my broom. So yeah, these larva bites right here from Cricket Flour. They're spicy cayenne pepper. So yeah, they're naturally 43% protein, so they're a great source of iron and zinc. So um, I think that like you said, it's not much of a thing here in North America yet, but I think that in Asia and Europe, it'll definitely be a more bigger thing, and probably Africa too. I know there's a lot of black soldier fly larva work being done in Africa,
Okay.
specifically like Kenya.
Okay. So you mentioned black soldier fly in Africa. I was doing some reading on them, and they seem to be pretty much all over the world. So when people are buying these things, do they have to be aware of what like state or country they're in? Are there any restrictions on where they can be sold and raised?
Um, yeah, so there are some restrictions. I guess like I guess like depending on, there's so many things I could say. So I guess like depending on where like you're living in the world, like it's cool, like you can get wild populations. So like you said, so like you could get your own eggs and start your own colony. I think and that's totally like free and legal, and like you can do that. Here in the United States, there's no like limits at all. You can ship to any state, no matter what. Like it's totally fine. Um, Canada, it's hard to get into any bugs really, is what I've been told. And you could probably get into some other countries, but I just haven't looked into it because like that's not my thing. You definitely can import like dried black soldier fly larvae from China, like at $1 a pound, like super cheap. But I would just be aware of like what they're actually like feeding. It's like because you can feed them anything, like you can feed them manure. So like, what is those black soldier fly larvae actually being fed? Are they actually having like an environmental impact? Like, are they being fed like a waste product? Or are they being fed like corn? Like,
Okay.
but I would say that another thing is like there is like regulations and whatnot on this industry. Like that only got approved for the first feed it got approved was for salmon fish, and that was in 2018. So not a very long time ago at all. And I think this past year they approved dog food, if I'm not mistaken. So we're getting to the point where um, we almost have everything. Um, but we still have certain limitations on us. We can only use pre-consumer food waste. So if you like eat food and then like you throw it in the trash, like we can't use that food. We have to use the
Okay.
food that like isn't touched, like not on the plate, not served. So like that's like kind of like a barrier that like legislatively. So
Does that just have to do with sanitation, I guess?
uh yeah, I would say so.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, lots of little laws you
I think
wouldn't
there's I
expect.
think that um later on it will get removed as a barrier. I think there just needs to be more research on it. The U.S. has been very, hesitant in the past to allow insects into the food chain, and now it's kind of a reverse. But they're wanting to see like information and data, and we're lucky in the black soldier fly larvae industry to have a really big company called Enviroflight, and they are pretty big, probably a few $1 million worth of company, and they put out a lot of research to AFCO is the feed control agency for the United States besides the FDA. So,
Okay. Okay, very cool. Um, what what's your favorite thing about raising the black soldier fly?
I would say probably I like the end part where just the selling them part of it, because I like it that they have such a value, and I like making my customers happy. And the customers usually on the reptile side, these black soldier fly larvae, and this is another reason I was attracted to them, is they have about 20 to 80 times more calcium than like mealworms, crickets, or dubia roaches. So reptiles require a lot of calcium for their bones. So I really just like how people seek it out and it's very rare, and people are like, oh, this I like that part of it. Besides that, raising them, I think my favorite part is the fly stage of them when they like mate, and it's just very interesting to like see them, and like they'll mate in the air, and they'll kind of like go like back to back, and like they'll fly through the air together, and it's kind of very graceful, I guess. It's very interesting. So I would say that's one of my favorite parts about it. To go along with that, my least favorite part of it probably is sifting the larva, because we use like a gold sifter to sift it from the fertilizer, and that can be time consuming and not very fun. So
Okay. Do you only have to sift when you pack them up to ship out, or do you have to periodically sift through?
yeah, I mean, it depends on how you grow. I mean, everybody has a different style. I only feed them once just because I can get the job done with the size bins I have. But I mean, it really just depends on your specific formula. There's a lot of variables that can go into play. But yeah, I only sift them once. I used to sift them twice, but I decided to go down to once just because it made more sense
Okay.
for me.
Okay. If you could go back in time to when you first started, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. um, hmm. I would say probably um hmm that's a really good question. Probably do more online networking, I would say. Just not be afraid to get started, and to do things. Like sometimes I think it's very hard to like put yourself out there and like do do this. Like be on the internet and just like put yourself out there and like be like, hey, I'm doing this, which I have to do a lot with like social media influencers, sending them out free larvae and whatnot. And I would also say like to myself, just like don't be just don't be scared to get started. Don't be scared to jump in. um, hmm, I would say something else to myself too, but I forgot.
That's pretty good advice. I don't have many pet bugs right now. I just have some water bugs, and I've been thinking about doing it for years and years. And then finally, I was just like, I'm just gonna go catch some. Caught some. Grabbed one of those critter keepers, put some water in, and
Yeah,
haven't had any issues. It was so easy to get started.
yeah,
I just kept like psyching myself out.
that's fantastic. I think I've seen it on your Snapchat a little bit.
Yeah, I haven't been great at posting lately, but I like to
That's
post
okay.
those.
That's what I mean. I was just talking about that. You got to get out there, That's one of
Yeah.
my problems too. Is like it's hard to post, And I think another thing to be in, I would have told myself is like you can't do everything. Focus on one avenue, and do that avenue.
Yeah.
Be the best at that you can be. So.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good advice. Do you have to compete much with like bigger sellers? Like, are you mostly selling local online? Like, How do you kind of carve out that
Yeah.
space for yourself?
Yeah, so I would say we mostly sell locally. It's getting to the point where we're selling online a lot more, and it's probably around this point like half of our sales. But there is one other company in Ohio who resells them, and I'm not really sure who their source of black soldier fly larvae is. Um, but we only compete against them at 2 shows. So we compete against them, but besides that, Ohio pretty much for the reptile industry is ours. There is the one company I mentioned, Enviroflight. They did start in Ohio, and then they are now in Kentucky, but they have a research and development plant in Ohio. So I guess you could say they're in Ohio, but they don't really do direct consumer sales to reptiles. Besides that, there's a company in New Jersey called Grubterra. You may have seen them on TikTok before with their like time lapse feed videos for the black soldier fly larva.
Hmm.
He's a cool dude. He did an Indiegogo to start his company. He's mainly in the poultry industry though, but he does do a few live feeder sales I've seen. Um, Also, there's another company called Sympton Black Soldier Fly Larva. They're in Texas. I would consider them probably the market leader for the live Black Soldier Fly Larva industry. Their founder, his name is Spring Yang. Um, I believe it's Spring Yang. I should know. I work with him so much. And he founded that company. And he works with Dr. Tom. He was studied under Dr. Tomberlin. Dr. Tomberlin is one of the great researchers for black soldier fly larvae. Kind of started the industry, and he works. His company is EVO Conversion Systems, and they provide infrastructure for black soldier fly larvae companies. So they're all kind of like down there at Texas A&M. So yeah, Sympton is good. So yeah, they're good. They're probably the industry leaders. I try to model myself after them. They do a lot of shipping. I think they have um, a few thousand orders a month, so they're pretty prominent. So,
Okay.
but besides that, there's some maybe 2 or 3 in California, but I wouldn't say that they're worth notable, and I couldn't tell you that much about them. So.
Okay. Do you see yourself in the future expanding out to other insects or sticking with the black soldier fly?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So eventually, I would like to kind of have a kind of like reptile supply store, online e-commerce store, and through that store, I'd like to provide different feeder insects. Ecoflys is really going to be more of a commercial venture for the meal production. Um, I do plan on in the future doing dubia roaches though, and I don't want to give away too much actually of what I'm thinking, just in case. But it will be involved like with food waste, like them eating food waste, possibly as well. So I think I might be moving into that, possibly, but we'll see. That'll be way down the line. So.
Okay. Yeah, I used to have a small colony of dubia roaches. They're fun.
Yeah, I love them as feeders, but I don't know why I've never had a colony, and I never experimented them with before black soldier fly larvae, and I really don't know why, honestly, because they're great. I love them.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
you should
think
go
they're
out and pick
awesome.
some up. I'm sure you got
Yeah,
lots of space and you aren't drowning in flies already.
yeah. Well, you should have been here last week. They were definitely got loose and they were flying around, so it was tough. Had to get the vacuum out.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Are
it's
they
tough.
do they
We're
buzz
next to
loudly?
a no,
Okay.
they're pretty much most of the time they're on the ground. They don't fly very like how flies do. They're like like flies would. They kind of just want to lay on the ground, walk a little bit, try to. I mean, they won't lay their eggs because it's not the right environment. They need a very specific environment to lay their eggs, but they'll just kind of walk around, be very still. Yeah, so they don't buzz that loud. They're really great for chameleons in the fly form, which I never thought would be a thing, but it's super cool to watch the chameleons dart their tongue after it.
Okay. Very cool. Um, let's see. Besides the flies, do you still have any lizards?
Yeah, I
Okay.
have 4 leopard geckos, a Lacerta trillianata, the Abronia, crested gecko, and that's it.
Okay. Do you have any pet bugs?
I know I tried to have some isopods a few weeks back. I've tried so many times to make my isopod colony, and I swear I'm just horrible at misting them. Which like I literally like will mist my Abronia because in my crested gecko, but I won't miss the bugs. Like I always forget about them. I'm horrible with them, but it is like something I'm gonna be looking into in the near future because like they're just so easy. I've thought about getting darkling beetles, or not
Okay.
darkling beetles, blue finger death beetles. Have you heard of those before?
Um, Let me look them up. Maybe.
They're interesting little guys. But I don't know. One thing that kind of turned me away from them that I kind of thought was weird was they kind of like having a little orgy. Like they kind of will just pile on top of each other and like have an orgy, I guess. And like that kind of was like, I don't know if I want to have a bug orgy happening in my house every day. Like,
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I've never had pet darkling beetles, but I used to live in Utah, and they're pretty common in the deserts out there. So I'd come across
oh,
them.
really? That's super
Yeah.
cool. I didn't know that. So those are the mealworm beetles, right?
Um. So the ones I'm talking about are the like bigger ones, like
Mm.
maybe 1 or 2 inches big.
Different like
Um.
genus or whatever. I'm not that good on
Yeah.
taxonomy. Yeah, gotcha. Understandable. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. They're fun. They're clumsy. They're funny to watch.
Yeah. What would you recommend if I were to get one? I've thought about millipedes too and like snails. I was just looking into snails actually and millipedes, but snails are hard to get. I've saw lots of
I
legislation.
Yeah, I don't know too much about snails. I have some snails right now that I caught in my yard, and I caught one big one, put in a little terrarium. It laid some eggs, and I thought that was pretty cool. And then they all
Yeah, that is
hatched,
awesome.
and I had to clear out like 20. And the terrarium's like, how big is it? It's like 9 inches by 9 inches. It's not big, and I just let it like dry out for a few months. Then I started watering it again. I was gonna put some more bugs in, and like 20 snails also came out of nowhere. So yeah, they're
Wow.
if you want the snails, they're good. If you don't want the snails,
That's good to know. I was gonna put them in with my alligator lizard. That's something people do, so I definitely am not gonna do that now.
yeah,
He would get
check
fat.
the type because it might just be the
Yeah,
kind that I have that is
that's
that
a good
quick.
point
But
too. But like I said, they're
yeah,
hard to get because they're invasive, I guess. So you can't get them shipped.
yeah,
But I guess I could
and
always get them
catching
from the
stuff.
backyard.
Yeah, so yeah, so I got those. Yeah, as far as getting into pet bugs, roaches they're usually like feeder bugs, but I think they're good pets too.
Yeah, they
Nice way to start.
Have you ever seen the African hissing roaches? Right, African
Yeah, I used
hissing
to have a
roach.
few of those.
Yeah, I've seen those at reptile shows and whatnot. They're interesting. Um,
Yeah.
what other ones? I've seen like red runner roaches, but not as pets before. Um, hmm. What other bugs have I seen? I think that's mainly it for like the reptile shows around here in Ohio. I've seen some like giant African bird eater millipedes, I think. So that was pretty cool. And I've seen some scorpions, like the whiptail scorpions. You seen those before?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So lots of different types of bugs.
yeah. Those are fun. I studied scorpions for a bit in college, but and we'd go out to the desert, catch them, and we could keep them alive in the lab. But I bought myself an emperor scorpion, had the enclosure all set up, and kept it misted, but I just could not keep those things alive. Supposedly one of the easiest ones to keep, and I couldn't.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just one little thing, I found out that spiders and like millipedes molt or something, and then like you can't have isopods in with them in there because like they'll eat them if when they molt. And I thought that was like, whoa, like I would never have thought of that, you know? Seems
Yeah, the molting's a pretty risky time. I I also, this is all in the past. I don't have much bugs now, but I had a little mealworm colony, and I got, I think it was just a little wolf spider. It wasn't big, so I put a mealworm in there with it, but the mealworm was a little too big for the spider, and I came back the next day and the spider was gone. There's just a pile of legs.
oh my.
Yeah, gotta watch
That's
out for what's in there.
one of the nice things about the black soldier fly larva is they won't like eat any of the animals. To my knowledge, that's never happened.
Yeah, I can't imagine they'd be eating stuff.
Yeah, they don't have like I know sometimes like the crickets' mouths and like the mealworms' mouths will like bite on the reptiles and whatnot. So like people are worried about that sometimes in the reptile hobby. So have
Yeah.
you ever had a reptile before?
Um, when I was really young, my family had an iguana, but it kept escaping, so we gave it away.
Understandable.
Yeah, but yeah, that's about it. I've caught like little desert lizards, but never had like a proper pet reptile.
Yeah. Well, there's no time like the present.
Yeah, I've thought about it. Might get into it sometime.
Yeah. So you got any other questions for me, or do you want to talk about anything else about the black soldier fly larva? Like any, I don't know,
Um,
anything burning in your mind?
I do have one question. So
Mm-hmm.
usually, fly larvae, people refer to them as maggots. You've
Mm-hmm.
always referred to them as black soldier fly larvae. Is there a
Mm-hmm.
particular reason for that?
Yeah. So I personally, as a marketer, I don't like the word maggot because I think it gives a negative connotation. I think that word is just sounds dirty, and I don't like using that word. I've never seen anybody like in research articles or anything use the word like black soldier fly maggot. So I've just never used it, you know. So I don't know if that's like a class like taxonomy class kind of thing or something like that, but no, I've wondered that recently too, if they're in a different class or something like that, but it's just preference for me, just not gross people out, I suppose, you know, so just
Yeah,
so I can sell larva pretty much, I mean, if we're being honest.
yeah. Larva sounds a lot more, I guess, approachable than maggot.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure there's some definition or something out there? That's a good question. That's a really, really good question.
Okay. So if people want to learn more about what you're doing, where can they find you and what you're this stuff you're doing?
Yeah, so you can always check out my blog. I have some decent blog articles, I would say. They need updated for sure, but hopefully by the time you hear this podcast, they'll be updated. So you can always read about that. And I have some reptile content up there too. I'm actually starting a podcast. I have kind of in the works of it. I had my first episode with Carl Werkomsky, and he made black soldier fly larva unit that's like a turnkey thing solution. You can pretty much like grow them at home. So yeah, that's another place. Or my Instagram. I show lots of reptile videos, and I try and update people on like what shows I'm going to, and what's going on. And then you can always subscribe to my email list as well. Yeah, and then I think that's it. You can always order from the website.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time for this interview. I learned a lot
Absolutely.
about black soldier flies, and yeah, thanks again.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, we can do it again sometime.
Sounds good. Thank you.